this quickly because I just saw it recently that pro-Hamas people have taken over a bunch of places in Colombia. There's this video out there showing a Jewish kid trying to get into the hall.
Imagine seeing video of the funerals of like civilian women and children that Hamas killed
Terrorized,
in cold
tortured,
blood,
tormented.
And thinking that the thing to do is be for those people. Like, I don't want to get too much into that stuff because it's dark stuff. I don't want to go there particularly. It's terrible. Listen to the commentary podcast if you want. Just like
about 50 minutes in, I'm sure that Steve from Merrimack may have already listened to it. But if you listen to the commentary podcast,
I mean, yeah, like but I can't imagine seeing what's going on in the world today with Hamas and Israel and thinking like, you know what? I'm for those guys. Like,
this is what we do. I have a plan. I now have a Marshall Plan, Alice, for the Marshall Plan for this.
And we get comments on Twitter, by the way, that are like, "Ooh, you're bloodthirsty. You don't care about the Palestinian children." The Palestinian children, like the Israeli children, are victims of Hamas.
Exactly. I don't care about the Palestinians anymore.
Why is Israel?
You've done it. You've done it. Palestinians, you've done it. You've done it.
Seriously, on October 6th, was Israel bombing any buildings in Gaza?
So this is what we need to do.
They weren't.
So this is what we need to do. Foreign policy-wise, Israel needs to carpet bomb Gaza and allow anybody who wants to get out through Egypt. We tell Egypt that they're going to be housing some people or create a little DMZ right along the Egyptian border there, the Philadelphia corridor, I call it else. And tell anybody that we're leveling Gaza. And they can go if they want to. That's their chance. Your chance to go. Two-state solution stuff is obviously over. We're leveling Gaza, level Gaza, and move those Palestinians somewhere else. It's they lost the war. They attacked Israel. Israel won. GTFO. You're gone. Sayonara. Go somewhere else. You can say and bitch and moan about what's it called when you move people?
Relocation?
No, what's the mean way? What do the people think that the Israelis are doing? Genocide. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's over.
I mean, so here's the thing, too, about this. And this is the problem with all of this, is that the Palestinian people are not willing to lose the war and, like, move on. Right? And like that's the issue. Is it
they have no leg to stand on it, so it's over.
Sometimes when you lose a war, you just move on with your day. And like we've talked about this. My dad owned an apartment in Croatia prior to the early 1990s, and our family no longer has that apartment. Like, too bad, so sad. We looked into it legally. There's nothing we can do. Poor us, we lost an apartment. Like, I mean, like, we just don't own that property in Croatia anymore. I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's how this goes.
Right. And also, Israel, you attacked them, and you wanted to defeat them. And the intention was to take territory, and you didn't, and Israel won, and they're still winning. And listening to the commentary podcast today, they said that the average age now of the new troops for Gaza are 17, 16-year-olds. And I think that's great. Kill more of those. And move the rest out. And good luck to you. We gave it a try, but didn't work out. There used to be, and you're the ones who acted animalistic. You're the ones who think it's great that an 8-month-old got suffocated to death, but you think it's great. You think it's awesome. That's great. That's good. You get to have that. You get to have all the video that you made the family watch and the families watch of these. You get to have that. Congratulations. But you are savage animals, and you got to go. There used to be that if you read the early, town meeting minutes of places like this town all over New England, there were two things that were terrorizing the towns. One was Indians. Two was
sorry, I'm looking at the
one of them was Indians and
chat.
And two were wolves.
There's commentary on your hair.
Oh, is there? Oh yeah.
It's a little wild today.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna go. We're gonna get. This is not a haircut. This is an explosion. And the thing is that okay. So this is the thing. So in these towns in the 1600s, The wolves are eradicated. We don't have wolves up here anymore. They're gone. The Indians have either assimilated or are gone. And that's how it has to be. You can't have this thing. So those guys are gone. I don't care about Palestine or Palestinians. I don't care anymore. You've engendered no sympathy for me. I could give a flying frig. As far as these students of Columbia, they should send federal troops in. They should brutally beat these people down who are taking over this property. They should sanction the school, the feds. Everybody in the feds, everybody in the cabinet positions should do what they can do what the Biden people did to the energy people, and totally harass Columbia and try to bring it down to rubble. And they should force Columbia to expel everybody involved in these protests. And they should obviously kick out of the country any of these greaseballs who are not citizens.
Well, yeah, I mean, do you remember that during the original Gaza protests immediately after October 7th when they all decided that it was like they all loved what Gaza did on October 7th?
Yeah.
That a bunch of people like cried and whined because they said some of the students might be here on visas, and if they were kicked out of school,
it looks good. Are you kidding me?
Now it does because you smoothed down the part that was sticking out. Like Phil called you a mad scientist. So
except without the science. Yeah.
And Tommy called you buckwheat shredder. But the thing is that they cried and complained and said, like, oh, these students who are here on visas, if you kick them out of school, then they'll lose their visas and they won't get to be here. Like, okay, so what? Like, I don't know. I mean, there comes a limit for people. And I know that there are some people on the right who are like white identitarians who like to say like, well, why was the limit not when they came for white people, just when they came for Jews, the special white people, right? Like, I understand the point, but it's not just about Jewish people, actually, because there's not, I mean, I understand that there's like discrimination against white people in the form of affirmative action and that nobody did anything about that and et cetera, right? But the thing about the Gaza protests and the October 7th stuff is not that it's Jewish people versus white people or whatever it is that people think that it is. It was the outright celebration by these protesters and people supporting them, including very prestigious people. I mean, like Karen Ataya, who worked at the Washington Post, and these are so-called serious people, went out here and said that what happened on October 7th was, if not great, then at least like justified and reasonable, right? And that was after, by the way, this is not propaganda. This is not me making this up. This is not me, repeating some like Israeli media spin. This is what Hamas put out there. This is after we spent the weekend of October 7th, and I woke you up that morning when all this stuff had been starting to happen overnight in Israel, and I said, oh my God, you should see this stuff that is happening in Israel. This is crazy. You will not believe what is happening right now. And these were videos that Hamas themselves were putting out here of this attack on
That's
civilians,
exactly right.
civilians, on people who are living their lives. This is not like something that Israel came up with or made up. I know they like to be like, oh, Israeli propaganda, and this never happened, and that never happened, and there's no evidence of sexual assault, and all these things. Okay, go and look. Google is free. Go and look for videos of things that happened on October 7th and see if you can explain to me how it's fine, and then get back to me, right? And I'm not like trying to send American kids to go die in the Middle East. I don't care. But I don't care what Israel does to Gaza. I just don't. Like, I'm not going to cry a tear over them. And if you were going to go out here and protest and say that in any way this was justified, much less what half these protesters think, that it's like great and a liberation movement and awesome and well-deserved, then, you need psychological help for the level of brainwashing you've received from the left in this country. You just do. I don't have time for it. And that's the problem, is it's not about Jewish people. It's about the outright embrace of terrorism against civilians in a way that we have not seen that was broadcast with glee by the people themselves doing it. This wasn't kept a secret.
Yes, I saw another video today I hadn't seen with the family
don't
huddled,
even
and I'm
say
not
it.
going to get to it, but like the sheer joy they took in making parents watch children in pain. So, yeah, burn them all, so that's fine. So the other thing that's going on here is...
Splash says, there's a lot of commentary. Yeah. I mean, like, maybe some of it's a little outdated. I moved away from the chat for a second, but Tom looks like he's about to take 90% of a young boxer's salary. Tom King or Don
Who said that?
Splash said that.
That's great.
Tom King or Don Shattuck. Tom looks like he's in the Matrix, but something went horribly wrong. Tom looks like he's trying to get a 1981 DeLorean to go back to 1955. Tom Spector. Tom looks like a hitman for fat people.
I think that's Christopher Lloyd.
Tom looks like he just discovered the theory of relativity. Tom Feldman. I don't know what that means. Tom looks
How
like...
dare you? Is that Corey Feldman? That's
I
not
guess
funny.
so. Tom looks like a security guard for the Ghostbusters building.
I was thinking about security guards today. It was funny. I was thinking about this guy I knew who was a security guard. There were two different security guards I remember. One was a guy named Steve, who was just the laziest, most miserable dude in the world, who later became a real close friend of mine. He had all the right attributes. Steve would... I think there was a little TV in their booth. And when you go in, when I worked in the Sinesta, you would walk in and the security guard would give you your pager if you had a pager.
Mm-hmm.
This is 1993. And the keys that you needed. So I needed the keys for function rooms because my job was to carry tables around. And this guy, Steve, so disdained having to serve anybody, to help anybody when you walked in, that he was fantastic. He fashioned, all the keys were hanging up on with numbered. He fashioned, I think the deal was that you would give him your employee ID, I don't know. But anyway, because he didn't want to have to get up to reach any keys because he was watching TV and didn't even cast an eye towards you, but he could know your voice, like, hey, it's Tom Shattuck, I need a bank reporter keys, whatever, I would say. Mm-hmm. Steve he had fashioned a broomstick with a nail on it, and it would just grab the keys while watching TV, grab the key loop, and hand them over into the little window thing where I'd get him. He was fantastic. It's totally unmotivated. We later on with Steve, and people who know me will know Steve from the late 90s. Good Republican, actually. Rare Massachusetts Republican back then. I guess there were more back then. But so Steve he was a lawyer who was not working as a lawyer. He was a security guard. Then I moved to the Marriott Hotel, and Steve was there. And I remember one time, there was somebody in the building who we could hear because he and I were shooting the breeze in the lobby about something. And he got a call about a guest in the 5th floor with chest pains. And it was over his walkie-talkie. And Steve, right there with me and him talking, as we're talking to each other, turns the volume all the way off. And that was it. And so because we were talking about The Simpsons or something, and something funny happening, and The Simpsons, he could care less. He was the absolute epitome of just like a. And I don't know if the guy died or not. I think maybe somebody might have manually come down for Steve, and it's like, Steve, you not hear the distress? Anyway, this guy was the best. This guy I think was named John. My brother would know, actually, because my brother worked with these guys in the security booth at the time. John was a guy who was former Air Force, who had hair like mine, kind of, when it was sticking up. He had hair like mine. And he had a huge gut, like huge beer gut. And he took some ownership and pride in his work because he was former Air Force.
Yeah.
And so he would get the key. He wouldn't use Steve's key stick because he was too proud. But he would, if you asked for the bank reporter keys, he'd get up, he'd reach for the keys, his shirt would fly out from under his belly, and he'd say, God damn it, my shirt keeps coming up, and his beer fat belly would come, and it would happen every time he did it. God damn it, freaking. So that's what you need to know.
Trish says when she worked at the State Street Corp, one of the building security guards was, no lie, about 375 pounds.
I mean, these people are not providing security for anything. They stamp for parking, really. So the next thing I want to get to is, did you see this stuff in Jake Tapper, Alice?
A little bit. Just that it was out there, but I didn't,
It's
watch
freaking
it.
amazing. Jake Tapper and another guy authored a book about the lie that Biden perpetrated.
Was mentally sound?
Called Original Sin. President Biden's decline, its cover-up, and his disastrous choice to run again. Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson. Which is
Alex Thompson the Axios guy who was covering this all along, though, and calling it out? He is.
I'm not sure. But
think
the Jake Tapper is any part of this? A guy complicit in the whole thing. It's freaking amazing. This is Jake Tapper just last year talking to Lara Trump about this stuff. He's not having it.
Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You have no I can't. This is so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
Well, you're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was.
I think that you were mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline. I would think that somebody in the Trump family would be more sensitive to people who do not have medical licenses diagnosing politicians from afar. Plenty of people have diagnosed your father from afar.
So that is Jake Tapper. It's unbelievable. Like certainly CNN can't have. Well, CNN is just. Are you just talking in the chat?
I'm seeing stuff in the chat. Splash made a comment I cannot read out loud about your hair.
What is it?
I can't say it.
What is it? Read it. Alice, just read it word for word.
You know what you call bacon?
Oh, yeah.
He says it looks like you just did that with a light socket.
Tell them what I call bacon.
The people in the chat didn't see it. It starts.
You've told it in the chat? You put it in the chat?
That's what Splash said in the chat.
Oh, I know. Okay. Oh, yeah.
So, but basically, what Tom calls bacon, what Tom's word game that he does is where he says the last bit of a word is the beginning of a new word.
Right.
So instead of bacon, it's con.
Right.
Something.
It sounds
meaning
like,
tongue in Latin.
It sounds like Aer Lingus.
Yeah.
Yes.
It looks like you just did that to a light socket.
Yes. My goodness. What is it? The chat has its A game today. This is a Sabrina Hernandez.
Flash wants that to be the name of the show, by the way.
Trying to the actual word?
Yeah.
Should we?
No.
This is here's Sabrina Hernandez trying to get Tapper last year.
I'm here with CNN. I can't get very close to them because their security guard is blocking me. But we've got Jake Tapper here. We've got Chris Wallace. We also have Dana Bash. Now, I've been asking them why they have been lying to the American public about the mental decline of Joe Biden. None of you guys would like to respond to that at all? No? Dana, you're a very respected journalist. Jake, not so much respected, but people listen to you still. Would any of you guys like to respond to Joe Biden's cognitive decline and why you guys lied to the American people about it for so long? Can you please take your hands off of it? So there you guys go. That's the media. They were.
So, and there's one more I think I want to get to. Oh, so these are in what are like ruse by Tapper. The very people who authored this cover-up are now. Tapper writes a book so he can get in, cover himself in glory. It's like being well, I won't use. What am I? Let me find something else to say. It's like being the arsonist and then running and throwing a fireman's uniform on at the end and taking like. No, dude, you caused all of this stuff. You caused every bit of this stuff. So here is, this is, and now Tapper's been a bitch, by the way. To everybody in the media thinks he's a bitch. I've always known he's a bitch. But this is Mark Halpern, the Mark Halpern podcast with Mark Caputo talking about this stuff and the audacity of these cable news companies.
Jen Psaki's hiring by MSNBC was one of the many examples of how utterly broken the Acela Media industrial complex is. For the first time in United States history, a sitting president seeking re-election had his press secretary go and work for a major media enterprise and anchor a show. And no one fucking said anything about how irregular, how newsworthy, how out of line that was. And we have hundreds, I've seen scores of media writers. And I know this because they've written about me when one of my private Instagram accounts leaked and I said something that was deemed too offensive by the chattering classes. Nevertheless, these people couldn't lift a finger to type a letter about how out of line, how irregular that was, and what it represented. So when we come to our current moment, Jen Psaki, MSNBC, represents a very particular inflection.
So it's more of a general indictment on it. But they also mentioned, at some point, I had the Halpern thing. They also mentioned the fact that Tapper's notorious for sending DMs when he's mad at you about something, if you've said something wrong. And I've actually seen this. He used to do it to Adriana Cohen. Just totally bitchy. Totally bitchy. Okay. The another thing I want to get to here is the Jeff Bezos post. Have you seen this?
Yes. You showed it to me. And
Okay.
I said, yes, you should.
Hold on. By the way, see the Trump wants to get rid of daylight savings?
That's good. Everybody normal wants to get rid of daylight savings.
So this is great. Bezos said, I shared this note with the Washington Post team this morning. I'm writing to let you know about a change coming to our opinion pages. We're going to be writing every day in defense of two pillars, personal liberties and free markets. We'll cover other topics too, of course, but viewpoints opposing those pillars will be left to be published by others. There was a time when a newspaper, especially one that was a local monopoly, might have seen it as a service to bring to the reader's doorstep every morning a broad-based opinion section that sought to cover all views. Today, the internet does that job. I am of America and for America and proud to be so. Our country did not get here by being typical. And a big part of America's success has been freedom in the economic realm and everywhere else. Freedom is ethical. It minimizes coercion. And practical, it drives creativity, invention, and prosperity. I offered David Shipley, whom I greatly admire, the opportunity to lead this new chapter. I suggested to him that if the answer wasn't hell yes, then it had to be no. After careful consideration, David decided to step away. This is a significant shift. It won't be easy, and it'll require 100% commitment. I respect his decision. We'll be searching for a new opinion editor to own this new direction. I'm confident that free markets and personal liberties are right for America. I also believe that these viewpoints are underserved in the current market of ideas and news opinion. I'm excited for us to fill that void. Jeff, dozens of replies are all people canceling subscriptions.
Yeah, so this is my question because this is like the most inoffensive possible way to say you're going to try and moderate your tone a little bit. You're not saying you're caving to Trump. You're not saying you love what Elon Musk is doing in the government. You're saying that you want the paper to be for two things: personal liberties,
right,
and free markets. Two of the most inoffensively great things that are out there. Like, it's just inarguable. Personal liberties. Who's against personal liberties?
Well, right.
And who's against free markets? Like, he put it in the most like inoffensive, calm way possible. And the whole thing where it's like he asked the current editor if he would continue in the role and if he could get behind personal liberties and free markets, and he's like, no, don't think I can do that.
Right.
Like, and then a bunch of people are like, this is a bridge too far.
Philip Bump, who is one of their authors, says, what the actual F? On Blue Sky, of course, which is why I opened a Blue Sky account today.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, this is a bridge too far. You're for personal liberties and free markets? What?
Right.
What is this? Like, what are you not for in the... Is it the personal liberties or the free markets that's causing the problem?
What are they really saying, these people who are canceling?
They're saying you're not on our team anymore.
And why aren't they on the team? What do they want the content to be?
All left-wing Trump hysteria?
Yes. Exactly.
And socialism and DEI and...
Be mad at Trump. This is not normal. Be now just a fire alarm that's been pulled about Trump. And that's all they want. They do not. These are not people. It's funny because these people who write for the Post, the progressives, they're not people who are interested in journalism. The editors who pick the stories and the angles, they're not interested in journalism. And the readers are not interested in journalism.
They consider themselves part of the resistance.
Exactly. All of them do. This is emergency. This is not normal. We can't do the normal stuff.
Yeah, they have to speak truth to power and fight threat to our democracy and all this nonsense, right? And Jeff Bezos has taken the smallest possible step back from that. Like, he's still willing to let you guys fight the power and all the stuff that you think you're doing or whatever, but he just wants the paper's opinion section to be run by somebody who likes free markets and personal liberties.
Right.
I mean, like, it's almost such a, like, lame shift in direction for the paper. It's, like, such a lukewarm shift towards the right. Like, it shouldn't even be towards the right. That should just be stuff we all agree on. It's so obscene, but it tells you how far the left is. Do you know what I'm saying? Where it's like they can consider the phrases personal liberties and free markets to be an affront to their worldview.
Yes. Well, yes. And also, what do you need from the opinion section? Why do you need, if you think Trump is a Nazi, isn't that all you know? But you need to have it platformed and amplified somewhere so that you don't feel like you're a psychotic. I need this official paper with the Washington Post font and a masthead. I need it to voice what's running through my veins 24 hours a day so that I don't feel like a psychotic.
Well, right. Phil says in the chat, next thing you know, Bezos will say he believes in gravity. I mean, really, that's like what it's like. It's like he's saying America's good, free markets are good, and personal liberty is good. It's not like some earth-shattering, hardcore right-wing view here. It's not fascism, that's for darn sure, because fascism is explicitly not for those things. But I don't know who the left thinks they're winning over by flipping out about this.
These elements, by the way, are the things that brought together all of these factions, these captains of industry and all the podcasters. Really just free speech. That's it.
Yeah.
We have to allow different voices. No! We're going to Blue Sky. You can find me there. 2 days later. By the way, you can find me at Blue Sky. By the way, you can find me at Blue Sky. You can find me at Blue Sky. This place is toxic now. Because Zuckerberg is just like not being an activist. God, it just shows you how spoiled these people have been.
It's nuts. It's nuts. If every major newspaper in the country doesn't print all their viewpoints all the time, they consider themselves to be living under some kind of fascist regime. It's incredible. And
do better.
I mean, it's just like, and that's why they continue to lose ground, right? I mean, I have to assume, because politics changes all the time, and only stupid people count on the fact that anything is permanent in politics, right? Even though sometimes it is. Like, there's no more wigs, obviously, but I don't want to assume that this is like a permanent tactic by the Democratic Party, that they're going to continue to drive themselves into the ground. I think the safe strategy for Republicans would be to assume that at some point here, the Democratic Party is going to reverse course and try and do something semi-reasonable before the midterms. I would think like a year from now, we'll be in a different spot. That they'll have come up with some better line of approach here. I mean, like, I don't know what the future is for their party if they don't. They don't seem to be heading there right now. I don't know. But
I also think that Jeff Bezos, first of all, he's running a huge company as well as the Post. The Post was a passion project, and he's been bitten.
Yeah, he did it out of the goodness of his heart.
Yes.
You've seen what happens to newspapers when they don't get bought by billionaires who who want to do a pet project of funding a newspaper. When newspapers get bought by other people, they just turn into nothing.
Well, yes, and I think he's seen that they're entitled, spoiled, paid people, And he looks at the Washington Post, and then he looks at Amazon and says, in Amazon, we don't really have this problem like this. People will do this stuff that makes it work and go. And people are constantly coming up with new ideas. We once just delivered books to people. Now they run the world. It's like it's because
they host half the internet.
Yeah.
They do like more logistics, I think, at this point. I don't know if this is technically true, but it seems like it's true, at least at my house. They do more logistics than the USPS does. I get more stuff from Amazon delivery drivers than I do from the USPS. Like, they do physical infrastructure, they do digital infrastructure, they do space, they do delivering things, they do. I mean, they're like, yeah, they used to just deliver books. This is a guy who's used to being able to get things done. Mm-hmm. And he wants to live in a world where people can do things like this.
Yes, and I think
that's his whole motivation. He obviously is not like some weird Trump loyalist where he's gone full MAGA or something, or he's looking for some handout from Trump.
Right.
Like, he doesn't care. He just wants to live in a world where we can move forward. And he knows that the way the Democratic Party is trending, they're against that.
Well, yes, and I also think that there is a camaraderie between people who dare to dream and dare to make things happen. And certainly it is Zuckerberg. Certainly it is, Zuckerberg didn't stop at having a catalog of hot co-eds. It became a social network. It became something that started coups around the world, changed governments, Facebook. I mean, it became a real huge thing. Facebook is a huge thing.
It's also, I mean, and part of this is like acquisitions, obviously, right?
Sure.
But they have Instagram, which is, I mean, our young people are not on Facebook, clearly, but the Instagram is also part of Meta, and also WhatsApp, which once again, I don't know if this is technically true, but it seems to me, just anecdotally, it seems to be the biggest non-texting messaging app that there is, pretty much.
But there is this camaraderie, I believe, with people who dare to dream and dare to execute. And when people say, that's a stupid idea. And Elon is the epitome of this. Like, what do you think? You're not going to have a rocket that lands like as if you just hit rewind on a video. Rockets don't do that. He dared to do it, dared to dream, and it does it. You don't, and all of these captains of industry like this, they dare to dream. And you know who else dares to dream is Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan moved out of Newton, Massachusetts, no dad in his life, small guy who had to learn to do martial arts so that he could defend himself, goes out to L.A., or starts to be a comedian first, goes out to L.A., gets a gig acting, unbelievably. His acting gig is done, then he gets a reality TV show, and then he going to do comedy. Then he does this podcast that nobody listens to at first. Nobody listens to it first. And when nobody's doing podcasts and doing whatever the hell he wants, he has the chance to do more Hollywood stuff and acting. He, for some reason, doesn't realize that he's finished and washed up. It's over. You get your one shot. He's what's the show he was on where you eat bugs?
Fear Factor.
He's the Fear Factor guy. You don't get to be the Fear Factor guy and then the UFC guy, but he said, no, I'm going to be the UFC guy too. So at the time he
just does what he wants to do.
Does what he wants to do. He has the audacity to do these things, even though anybody else's career is over. Another guy is the biggest freaking influencer, who I don't think ever went to college, has no education. It just doesn't.
But no, it reminds me of that meme of Jeff Bezos, where it shows like the picture of him in his nerdy outfit and his whatever, being like, hey, I sell books. And then there's like the picture of him with his shaved head and his puffer vest and his sunglasses. It says like, I sell whatever the F I want. Like, that's what it is. You start doing stuff and you try things and you do stuff well and you make an effort and you do things that you're passionate about and that you believe in, and you actually like change the world. You brought up Elon. Like, it's not just the rockets, it's not just the cars, it's not just Twitter. The company that I've been hearing people talk about Elon the most about, honestly, is the Boring Company. Do you know what they do?
They do the tunnels.
They do underground tunnels. So they have this thing under Vegas now where you can put your Tesla in it. It's a loop. It goes one way,
George
one
talks
lane.
about it all the time.
one lane. Your car can go gazillion miles an hour because there's no other cars to crash into. You just put it on the autopilot and it goes through this tiny little tunnel underground that's like only a teeny bit more than the width of a Tesla, and you zoom right through it. It's like it's like taking the subway, but just you personally in your car. It's incredible.
Yeah,
all I've heard is good about it.
Yeah, they're trying to get him to do it in L.A. as well. As a matter of fact, these cities just like let him do it. It's like, go ahead, just start boring, whatever you do.
He's gonna start to do it under oceans, and then all bets are off. Because if you can get in your own personal car and fly under the ocean as fast as a car can go with nothing else that can crash into on autopilot, and you don't have to do anything, like it's better than a plane ride.
Oh, absolutely it is.
If you can just drive into a tunnel and be in Europe in however many hours, like...
Well, I mean, you'd have to go at least 200 miles per hour. Planes go about 500, I think.
But how fast can a car go if there's no restrictions on how fast it can go because it's a straight shot with no other cars and it does it by itself?
But it's funny, but the guys like Elon are thinking of solutions for this right now.
Yeah.
They're thinking of this. And that's the whole thing. And you know who else sees something that's dilapidated and sucky and envisions something totally different? Is Donald Trump. This is a guy who, the moment he's been talking about the freaking, he's trying to get Kim Jong-un to build condos in hotels on the coastline of North Korea. This guy, these are visionaries who see things, and they are they're above any politician, they're above any academic who have all sorts of PhDs about things. These are people with the audacity to go do stuff. Unbelievable stuff. So, and by the way, these also are guys who see, once they become global, that they could only have done this in America.
Of course.
And they look at these spoiled pukes who work for the Washington Post, and they say, you have no freaking idea. You bitching and moaning about freaking American colonialism. F you. You have no idea what this country offers, what this country makes possible. You know, and these people...
Well, what do you think about this thing with, like, the gold cards that Trump's doing? That pay $5 million and you get a fast track to being an American.
I think it's an innovational idea. I think it's... Why not? You know what also is becoming something that's no longer absurd?
What?
Is Gaza Lago. Because you can't let the Gazans back.
Did you see the video that Trump truthed out there?
Yeah. But Alice, it's no longer really absurd. You're going to remove the Gazans from Gaza. What are you going to do with it?
I don't know.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible. A caller today called about the gold card and said it's absurd. And well, no, what we have now, and what we had the last 4 years, that's absurd. You know, ideas, people come in with ideas for $5 million, and you get to be a citizen as long as you're vetted. And if you can do it with, like, pay down the debt with that, literally having people pay to get in to first class in the country. And if you've got $5 million of disposable income somewhere else, then you're up to stuff somewhere else. And somebody today, and one of my callers said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna bring in oligarchs." Yeah, oligarchs are business owners. Of course you do. Yeah, if you have people, more winners want to come here and want citizenship. Absolutely, it's foolish to look down on an idea like that. But people are so used to in this country, especially people on the left. Oh, no, the establishment is just how it is fine. We need all the workers we have right now. FDA needs everybody who's there now. It's nice and stable. It needs to be just like it is now.
Well, and the left is against, like, value judgments on people and what they bring to the table, just fundamentally, right? And that's part of, like, for some reason, being on the side of the Gazans, right? Like, in all of this, right? The left's whole thing... Part of it is that it's wrong to think that, like, successful people are somehow better or did something better or deserve it. If you are successful and did something better, it must be because you're oppressing somebody or taking something from somebody or doing something bad, right? But, like, yeah, of course I think we should take, who's the Alibaba guy? Jack Ma. Like, we should have him be an American, obviously, and build stuff here instead of for the Chinese government, clearly. But, like, the whole thing where we don't say that, like, it's more valuable to have awesome people here than net drain people here, that's like a byproduct of leftist thinking, don't you think? That this idea that, like, no, the Statue of Liberty says give you her poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. I can't even say that. I started to say it in like the second person, and I don't know what I did wrong there, but whatever. They want like only poor people on welfare to come to America. Heaven forbid you suggest that like wealthy people come here and contribute. Right? Heaven forbid you suggest that Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos is offering something better to society than like the homeless person in the MBTA stop.
Well, right, but it's also
like
a very
mean thing to say.
It's also a very romantic notion. The beautiful statue of a woman in cloth holding the book that says the thing. It's all symbolism. It feels good to say. It's poetic. It's romantic. Give me your huddled masses. Oh. We got it from the French. Did you know that? They sent it to us. It's so freaking grow the frig up. That is not the business plan for the United States of America. There is a business plan.
A poet writing something does not make it policy.
There is a business plan for the United States of America, and it was written by a bunch of guys in the 1700s. Okay? That's how we operate, without a king and all the other stuff. All right, Albie. Should we get to the chat?
I guess we should get to the chat.
Would you like to populate the chat with your special chat messages, which have been entertaining you throughout the show?
What?
I say without without judgment, because you've been very amused.
I gave us all the chat messages.
You did?
Pretty much.
You keep being amused by them.
I'm all set. Do the chat.
I have no problem. Not complaining, by the way, because I've seen you grinning and I would say this, that if people want to get in on all the fun Alice is having, then please be a Patreon member. So there was no way my hair was that bad.
I'll make the thumbnail for the video. And
by the way, if it was, don't I have a wife?
What? It's my job to look out for stuff. I don't care what you look like.
Oh, obviously. Pathetic. Okay, I think there's one chat message. The chat is dried up, bro. Dried up.
We hit our apex.
I guess we did. Now we're... Okay. Dr. Cheswick, it's all you.
Tom, remember in The Godfather when Michael's talking to Clemenza about murdering McCluskey and the other mob guy there?
Yeah.
And how... every 7 years you need to clean out the bad blood and have a war.
Yes.
I think we're in the middle of that, except that this war on government and how bloated it is and everything just hasn't ever happened. They claimed it did. I remember during the Clinton administration how they were trying to pare down government. That didn't happen.
And welfare.
All of what is happening just makes me feel so good about what happened in November.
Good.
All of it.
You're not regretting your vote?
Oh, you see all the stories about that? They're regretting it. There's not one Trump voter who regrets their vote.
I literally know nobody who
There's not.
regrets
It's just
their
not
vote.
happening. They can say it all they want. It gives them some... It's a salve for them on the left. See, they're regretting it. Yep. See.
Well, that's why they keep doing posts like, it's okay to come back. We're not going to judge you. Better now than never. They're doing all this stuff like...
Oh,
do you remember our friend that posted? I forgot if you read it on the show or if you just told me about it, but like the first time to like not support Trump was back in November, but the second best time is now, and like all this stuff. Dude, we don't regret it. I'm sorry that you're feeling like this, but like whoever told you there's a bunch of Trump supporters out here who are regretting their votes is making things up. Like, you need to reevaluate your life. Trump's more popular than he was at the time of the election right now.
Yes.
You're in the 35% of the country. Maybe not in the 35% of this town in this state, right? Like, I get that, but there's no... In terms of countrywide, Trump's more popular than he was when he got elected.
Correct.
So... on average, there's more people who didn't vote for Trump who think what's happening is great than vice versa. And just look at some numbers before you post this stuff. Like, maybe there's some anecdotal case. Maybe somebody's found some Trump supporter who regrets their vote. But this is not the story that the numbers are telling us when people actually look this stuff up. It turns out the American people don't care if you fire the USAID workers.
Right.
There was not like an outcry and an outpouring over that.
I'm also seeing a lot of these. Daughter notified today that her immune suppressant for chronic illness is no longer covered as of 3/1. I'm sure she is not alone. Somebody says America is not great again. Then she goes on to say that most of her friends' medicines are now not available. Her own medicine and psych medication is not available. Her nephew's medication is not available.
Through what insurance provider?
I don't know. They go into it. But this reminds me, I don't believe any of these people. This reminds me of a certain couple of society writers right after Trump won, a man and a woman, telling me that they were at functions in Boston and that Trump voters were there and called them homophobic slurs at functions in Boston wearing Trump stuff, which never happened at all. They tried to launder two different stories through me to tell the editor so that they could have these stories about Trump people already being homophobic and racist and this and that and saying all sorts of things.
It's like the stories they try and do every few years about Red Sox fans.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, people in Fenway Park were shouting the N-word at me. Like, no.
Right. Yeah,
it's
no.
not stuff that happened.
Didn't happen. Please don't take your meds or take your meds or do friggin' whatever you need to.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Cheswick, for weighing in on the Chat. If you want to weigh in on the Chat, that's burnbarrelpodcast.com. There's a red button you can press to record a message for the show. So you can do that. That's free. Obviously, it's free to listen anywhere you like to listen to podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Hear that just got better?
YouTube, Rumble. If you want to join the Patreon and the chat where everyone was talking today, you can do that at patreon.com/burnbarrel.